In the city of Cupertino, all actions of local government fall under the authority of the City Council. 5 candidates are in the running for 3 seats on Cupertino City Council. As part of the City Channel's ongoing coverage of this race toward Election Tuesday, you're about to see an up-close and personal introduction to one of those 5 candidates. This is Candidates Q&A with tonight's featured City Council candidate, Sandy James. Tonight's segment was recorded on Friday, September 26th.
Hi, I'm Pam Marino of the Cupertino Courier newspaper, and this is Michael Cronk of the San Jose Mercury News. And today we're going to be interviewing Sandy James, one of 5 candidates running for a seat on the Cupertino City Council. Welcome, Sandy.
Thank you.
You've been on the Cupertino School Board for 8 years. And how has what you've learned on the school board translate to the City Council? What can you bring from there to the City Council?
Okay. Actually, a lot of things that I have worked on and skills and partnerships that I've developed on the school board, I think, translate very readily into municipal government. Certainly, the ability to work with a 5-member board or council. I come from private industry and have my own business. It's a very different experience being able to make decisions yourself or put things into actions with your staff than to have to come to some collaborative decision making with 5 members who come from different parts of the community with different experiences and different skills. And I do believe that that's one of the hardest things about being an elected official on a board or a council. And I believe that as my school board has changed every 2 years in the 8 years I've been there, and we've had 2 superintendents, you learn to work with different people and different skills, and that's something that I believe I've done very well. I know all the city council members already that are seated in the school are in the city of Cupertino, so I already have a built-in professional relationship with all of them and with city management. As a school board member, we've had elaborate partnerships with the city of Cupertino, so I've already worked a lot with the city manager, with the council, with the staff here. I also believe one of the things that we've done so well in the school district and needs to be done in the city are partnerships with the rest of our community, with our educational institutions, certainly with our business partners, with our environmental partners, with our parents and our youth groups and community groups, social groups. And that's something that our school district has done extremely well. As you know, we are funded very, very low in this county, second from the bottom, and we have a level of educating our children and moving forward with curriculum that's nationally recognized. We've done that a lot because of the partnerships we forged with other members of the community nationally, state level, and local and regionally, which also means that I already have established relationships with our legislators, with our business leaders, with leaders in other communities, and that's something I can sit down at this job and immediately be able to pick up the phone to dialogue with. I've served on various committees and that. So that those, just briefly, there are lots of other things, but I would say those kinds of skills, my community knows me. I'm known in this community. I work very hard in this community, so I believe I represent the community extremely well, and I know what their issues and concerns are, and I listen well. So those kinds of traits and skills, certainly managing a budget. We have a budget in the school district that at one time was $100 million with $50 million in building fund, $50 million in general fund, working with 6 city governments, with 1,200 employees. All of those issues comes to the city, which is a smaller public entity, different, but certainly having learned how to manage those, how to set policy, how to make budget decisions. And your budget decisions really are your policy, as you know. Put your money where your mouth is, so to speak. Does that answer that fully enough for you?
Yes,
okay.
Thank you.
Growth.
Growth.
Always a big issue in Cupertino.
Always.
Generally, what is your feeling about the level of growth that's taken place, say, over the last 4 years? In your view, has it been too much, or generally, what direction would you like to see?
It's an issue that no matter who I talk to, whether you talk to homeowners, business people, people that come and go to school here, whatever, growth is a very emotional and serious issue. There isn't a whole lot of buildable land left in Cupertino, so it's not as big an issue, I think, for a city council person as it was maybe 5 or 10 years ago. But certainly the buildable land that's left is going to be gnawed over and debated over, and I do believe that consensus is going to be a little more difficult to come to. I love the open space. I hike at least twice a week up at Rancho San Antonio, and I also am a strong business person. I have my own private business. I try to frequent our local businesses as much as I can. I have all my business meetings in our local restaurants. I think that that's very important. I think we have a few pieces of land left where we could do some more higher density, where it's acceptable to the community in order to leave the green belt, the open space on the outer fringes, and stay out of the hillsides. I do believe that quality of life has become more and more and more important as the tensions in the world and in our communities and our individual lives become more intense. And as a city council person, you have to look at all those things, which makes it difficult to make everybody happy all the time. You can't do that. So I have to tell you that I believe we need a strong business base. I'm real upfront about that. I think our biggest crisis right now is keeping the businesses we have here healthy, so they're not leaving in droves, and so that we can, it's not like we need to build a lot more business, but let's keep the ones that are here, encourage those to come with the centers we have and keep them healthy. I know that some of our large corporate partners like HB and Apple and Tandem have taken a beating over the years by some community members as bringing in traffic, etc. But they have also, I'll tell you, from our schools' perspective, if they had not helped us out with the schools over the years, we could not do what we do. They have volunteers that come into the schools. They support all our fundraisers. They have been good parts of our community, and I think that we need to hear a little more about that, bring them into the process a little more fully about what the community looks like and how to make the things that are not working well work better.
Back on housing, the diocese project out at Rancho San Antonio will probably not be voted on until after the election. That's 178 homes. How would you vote on that?
Well, that was a surprise to me that was put off, and I agree with you. I don't believe it's going to be voted on until the new council comes in. So to be honest with you, when I have spent a lot of time with staff, in fact I spent 2 hours yesterday with Bob Cowan, and going over all of the kinds of current projects and past projects. We didn't spend a lot of time on that because we thought that was going to be passed. So I'm going to answer that in one way and not completely. I'm inclined to approve it if you were asking me right off the bat, because I think a whole process has gone through that's gotten us to the point where we've come to some conclusions that seem to me, with 65% of the open space going to the community, are good compromises. However, I value Laura Lee Sorensen and Wally Dean and their work, and I would like to talk to them in depth, and haven't had a chance to since they postponed this, on why they are not going to vote for it. So I'm not going to tell you for sure what my decision would be, because to be honest with you, I don't have all the information I need to make a definitive decision, and I would never do that without feeling like I'd researched it completely. But those are kind of my two differing opinions. I mean, I'd like it like everybody else if there was nothing up there but open space, but we have to be a little realistic too. And it seems to me we went from many, many more homes than 178, 290 or something like that, even more, down to that. So it seems to me that a lot of time and effort to come to what appears to be a good compromise, but I want to hear the other side too before I make, I wouldn't vote on anything before I was brought up, got the city attorney's opinion and staff opinion and my fellow council members' opinion also.
Well, another issue you're going to have to deal with on the council is Valco.
Absolutely.
A very significant source of revenue for the city, centrally located in the city. It's had some problems of late. Do you have any ideas on, if you were on the council, how you would start trying to revitalize that area, that center?
I think Valco is a serious, serious problem for this community, and I did recently sit on an economic committee where we talked about retail space within the city in general. I think you were there, Pam, weren't you? And Valco was certainly the biggest topic of conversation that day, and kind of everywhere I go and talk to people it comes up. It came up this morning again. It's very problematic because the big stores other than Penny's and Sears, have not been successful there. So getting new stores to come in is a problem for us. Also, we have stores like a Clean Well Lighted leaving, and that doesn't encourage other retailers to come into our community either. I believe Valco is an important part of the community, certainly with something like 35% of our revenue coming from sales taxes. It's something that we have to take very seriously. I'm not sure that that doesn't have to look differently, though. I don't know if that old model of 3 anchor department stores with other stores around it works well anymore. People's lives have changed, and who has time to spend all day shopping anymore? You tend to either go get something quickly and leave, or you maybe go out for an entertainment and you shop during that time. That's why some of the new centers, like the old El Paseo one, which is going to be centered around a lot of theaters, works well with bookstores and coffee houses and nice restaurants. At one time, someone had a real unique idea for that old Emporium building that I find intriguing, and that's a very high-tech library with conference rooms centered in there that would bring people in, and then have the store as a part of that. I don't know if that's feasible or not, but I do think we have to open our minds to new creative solutions. I don't believe that center is going to look the way it looked when it was first designed and be successful. And we certainly have all the tools and all the people in our community to help us work out that problem. We probably need to take a look at that, a retail summit meeting, a meeting with all of our developers and our retail experts and our municipal and staff to see what we can do to encourage retailers to come in and to build a good solid base underneath the retailers that are here. And part of that is the community members have to be more proactive in shopping here, keeping their money here, trying to support more fully the businesses we have here.
Do you think a redevelopment district is a possible idea for handling Valco?
I noticed when I was reading over the budget, the city budget, that one of the goals and objectives of the council this year for staff is to look into the possibility of a redevelopment agency. And I certainly would vote as a council member that that is something we should investigate. Beyond investigating it, I don't know the answer to that question, because there are a lot of pros and cons to redevelopment agency and how it would impact this community. It's something that we really would need to get a large amount, an intense amount, deep amount of information on from all the different aspects to see if it's anything we should consider. But I do believe that the business atmosphere is such and our tax base is such that we need to look at everything. And that is one we definitely should be taking a look at.
Okay. In terms of the budget, the reserve in the budget is quite substantial. How much is too much? How much is too little? Do you favor spending down some of the reserve on community needs? And if so, what are some of the projects you'd like to see?
I was surprised to see that kind of reserve, because in the school district, by state law, we have to maintain a 3% reserve, which we do. And if we had any more than that in reserve, our associations would come down around our necks big time as to why we were sitting on that money. So to see that the reserve in the city is almost as much as their general fund budget was pretty amazing to me. Recently, when I was looking at that, I understand more their philosophy. I guess the council's philosophy and the city staff's philosophy is that they want to have 75% of the operating budget plus their debts covered by the that fund. That still seems like a lot of money to me when we have community needs. I'm passionate about the potential for a teen center. I've been working on that. Certainly our senior center, we really need to enlarge our senior center. And our library, we need a new library. We need to either enlarge and update the library we have, or we need to build a completely new library and give us the library building for teen center. How's that for an idea? Maybe one of our corporate partners could help us with a high-tech library for the community, which is those are the kind of partnerships that I think you could be exciting and creative in working on a city council, looking at things a little differently.
One of the issues that's before the residents of the city is the diversity. We have such diverse cultures here, all trying to get along. And what role do you think the city government needs to take in helping, in facilitating the people of different races getting along here in Cupertino?
It's interesting you should ask that. I just came from a 3.5-hour coffee, which was for candidate coffee to get to know the community. And the topic of conversation was the racial tension in my city. And I was actually delighted to have that conversation because it seems to me that for a long time people have been afraid to talk about it. And it is here, it's amongst us, and it is a problem for all of us. The word diversity that you use, you know, I guess I dream of a day when we don't ever use the word diversity, because when we don't have to use it anymore, it means we truly have assimilated all of us together, and it isn't something we have to be focused on. In this community, we have a huge Asian population, as you know, primarily Chinese. We have a very large East Indian population, with a group from Russia, from Israel. We have unique cultures represented, and it's always been able to get along together and to define who we are as a group. We're having difficulties now. We're having difficulties for many different reasons. The growth is quick and it's large. It's confusing to many people. Change is frightening, you know, and most people are more comfortable in the status quo. It's better to sit still for a while and not move than to have to really address those. Everyone I talk to, though, is even the people that are kind of angry or confused at the changes and don't know how to handle them, admit that what they ultimately want is for all of us to be proud of our city and to define who we are as a group and not separate out. And what seems to be making people uncomfortable is the separating out. And everybody's kind of doing that in different ways. As far as what a city council member can do, I think all of the leaders, school leaders, city council leaders, whatever, have to play a serious role in this. You have to role model, you have to show willingness to talk. I don't have all the answers, but I know the questions to ask, and I feel comfortable asking them, and I believe we as leaders have to give everyone the freedom to ask and to dialogue, and that's where we start. And if we can do that and start, including our young people, it's starting to filter to them too, because they're hearing it in the kitchens, and they're hearing it on the soccer field, and they're hearing it in the grocery stores, and they're hearing it wherever they go. That's when we really make change happen. And I really believe that's one of the biggest issues going on in the city now, and it's something that we can all be very proud of, what happens in the final analysis, because everybody wants to get to the same place. They want a healthy, environmentally safe, wonderful city to live in, where everyone gets along and everyone can be proud of the place they live. That's all. Everybody wants the same thing. We just need to talk to each other to get there. But it is definitely here, and it's something we all have to deal with.
Talking environmentally safe, or speaking about the environment, while Kaiser's at this point decided not to pursue seeking a permit to burn tires, that doesn't mean that it won't be coming up as an issue during your tenure on the council, should you be elected. What's your position on it?
You know, I've talked to a lot of people about tire burning. That was before Kaiser kind of backed off this last week or two. That was probably one of the more volatile and constant questions that came up. And I have to tell you, in all honesty, I haven't talked to Kaiser recently about it. I talked with them and spent some time with them after they did the original pilot, and their statistics and their data was quite impressive. Since then, it's more the environmental groups that have come and talked to me, that have spent time with me, and their data and statistics and analysis are very impressive. And as you and I both know, you can get what information you want. If I was talking to Kaiser, and I come from both a business perspective and an environmental perspective, I would say to them, why do you want to try this in this community? Because it's not going to go away here. While I think recycling tires is a very good environmental thing to do, the fact is, doing it in the middle of a suburban community like this, the people that live here are going to constantly be unhappy about it. Why don't you take it to an industrialized site, someplace else where you have, that would be happy to have your business, happy to have the interaction, and try it there? Because they're profitable here. It's not like it's a company that needs to invest in that in order to be more profitable. So their arguments, are not real strong for doing it here in the middle of Cupertino. And I think that Kaiser, as an industry, has enough PR problems that we need to help them with, because they are good partners in many other ways. They support a lot of, the child-centered things, youth-centered activities in this community. So I would say to them, why don't you try this somewhere else instead of here? That would be my advice. if that still came to me as a council member, I would definitely have to look at both sides, but if it has an environmental and a health risk, to me that would be the deciding factor against it.
One of the things that people talk about in the community being concerned about is older homes being torn down, large, sometimes called monster houses being put up that take up the entire lot and tower over. You mentioned before the show that you had heard from people who said one home goes down on a large lot and six go up. What do you think the City Council needs to do about those issues?
That was interesting because I asked Bob Cowan about that yesterday. That is one of the questions I keep hearing in the community, and it's a very intense subject. A lot of people that have known me for many years and respect me as a school board member and have supported me in the past, I'm real surprised, will come up to me and say, well, you know, Sandy, I love you dearly, I know you work hard, I know you're fair, but what are you going to do about, you know, tearing down one house and putting up 6? Before I'm going to support you, I want to know your stand on this. And that's how serious it is. And I was fascinated to find from Bob, because I asked him, I said, what can the city do about that? I mean, if this is a piece of land that's under private ownership, what kinds of changes can we make, or what kind of restrictions can we put on? And I was surprised, new to municipal government, that there's quite a bit that a city council person can do, that the city can do. They can make almost any kinds of restrictions or decisions based on if you don't want, because I know what the Planning Commission's doing now in the city. They're working with their ratio of, you know, space to building, etc. And actually that can change. You can take another look at it. You can change it at any time. There's a community here, I think it's on John Way, for instance, that came with a petition that said we don't want any 2-story houses on our block. And the fact of the matter is that the council can approve that and say that you cannot build 2-story houses on this block. So as a city council member, you can have an impact, and I actually do think that I have heard enough about concerned citizens about that's something I would definitely want to take a look at and see if we couldn't change. You know, if you've lived in this community for a long time and invested a lot in your home, whatever it is a shame to allow the whole neighborhood to change, to put as big a house or as many houses on one piece of land. There's something not quite equitable about that. So maybe we need a little more equitable for the new home builder, but the people who have been there a long time have to have their share also. Mm-hmm. So I definitely think that's something I would be very interested in reopening, taking a look at, studying, trying to make that better.
The issue of public safety is always near and dear to people's hearts also. It's always an issue in Cupertino and other cities. What is your assessment, current assessment, of the delivery of police and fire services in the community? Do you feel that Cupertino is a safe community? Or do you think that the agencies that serve it are doing a good job, or are there any areas that you'd like to see different emphasis put in or more resources put to?
I have had a lot of interaction with the Central Fire District and the Santa Clara County Sheriff's Department as a school board member, because of course those services also service our schools and our children. And every time I see any sheriff's deputies or captains or sheriffs and our fire district people, I always go up to them, whether it's in the grocery store or it's wherever it is, and thank them for the services that they give us, because I think they do an outstanding job. I went through the sheriff's community training, which is just fascinating, and it's like a mini cadet kind of thing. You go 13 weeks, 3.5 hours, one night a week, and then you spend one whole day on the firing range, and one whole day going through community buildings such as the disaster preparedness and the morgue and that, and then you spend one whole evening on patrol, and came to understand a lot more of the lives and the challenges of our law enforcement people. I've always been very big on law enforcement, but I feel now more akin to what they do for us and what their needs are in return, because they have needs in return, of course. Right now, the city, we have we have people that the city and the school districts fund in our schools, working with our children, and now the city is looking at, in the school district, one more officer to do that, and that is a wonderful program also that I think has helped the whole community as well as the school community over the years. So I am extremely happy with the services from both of those agencies. I'm very supportive of both of them.
We don't have much time, but any thoughts on how we could combat graffiti? I'm sorry.
Are we ending on graffiti, really? Gee, gosh, nobody's ever asked me that one. How do we combat graffiti? You know, I believe most of the graffiti, and gosh, I apologize to our law enforcement community if I'm wrong about this, I believe the majority of it comes from outside our community, people coming in the community performing it. And I know that the city staff does an outstanding job of cleaning it up very quickly. I don't know what the financial impact is, to be honest. I haven't seen any figures on that. And I don't know that it's a huge problem in Cupertino. Education has got to always be the primary. Education and law enforcement being aware and on top of it. And other than that, I think that's kind of where you hit it, always.
Okay, well, looks like we're out of time.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Sandy. And
you're welcome.
Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael.
Election Tuesday is November 4th. Please vote for the 3 candidates best suited to serve on Cupertino City Council. And keep watching the City Channel for more special City Council election programming.